Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coaches Pod Class, the number one podcast for teenagers. I am your host, Coach Williams, and I will help teenagers transform their lives by changing the way that they think. That's my mission. I'm like a voice for the teenagers. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, I'm not a teenager. And you don't have to be, but I bet you're still dealing with some teenage problems. You see, my philosophy is if I can get to the teenagers while they're still a teenager, then their 20s and 30s and 40s will be trauma free. Well, not trauma free because life be lifing, but they'll be equipped to handle life when it throws traumas their way. So, welcome to my podcast. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that you are here. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Y'all, Coach Williams University is the place to be. When I tell you that I love teenagers, I really mean that I love teenagers. I've built a business called Coach Williams University. Built a business. And it has two different sides to it. It has the educational side. And on the educational side, I go and facilitate school assemblies. I do mentorship sessions. And I also facilitate professional developments. And I do all of this just to impact those kids right there in the educational system. See, I've been an educator. I've been in education for 10 years now. And these kids need a voice like mine. I also do it through avenues on social media, like this podcast. If you hadn't followed me on TikTok, Instagram, it's Coach Williams University. On Facebook, it's Cordarius Williams. On TikTok, I think it's Coach Williams, not TikTok, LinkedIn. I think it's Coach Williams University too, or Cordarius Williams, one of the two. I can't remember. But my philosophy is that if I help these kids in education and on social media, I am a voice through the thing that consumes most of their time. They're all day at school, and then they come home and they get on social media. And so I want to be that positive voice for the teenager. Y'all, I'm that guy for the teenagers because look at my energy, my passion. In fact, it's my calling. Like, I remember how it was being a teenager. I remember how lonely I was. And so that's what this is about. That's what Coach's Pod Class is about. I want to teach teenagers how to deal with their life's problems. Yo, shout out to Clarity Media. Shout out to my brother Lee Hall for hosting this podcast. If you are looking to start a podcast, if you have a vision and you need help getting clarity on it, hit me up. Hit my brother Lee Hall up at connect@claritymedia.life. Connect@claritymedia.life. Also, if you want to sponsor me, if you want to donate some money because you believe in my cause, please reach out to me in my DMs. You can email me at coachwilliamsllc@gmail.com. And I would be glad to take on sponsorships because teenage lives, they need to be saved. It's important. These are the people who are going to take care of me. These are future doctors. These are future nurses. These are future lawyers. These are future professional ball players. Whatever it is their careers will be, they need our help right now. They need it right now. So, y'all, I'm excited. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Last week, we talked about identifying your trauma. We talked about putting ice on your trauma, rather. I told you that the I stands for identify your trauma. The C stands for communicate your trauma. And the E stands for embrace you for you. It's important to put ice on your hurts because if you don't, you're just going to spend the rest of your life limping. You're going to spend the rest of your life on crutches, getting mad at everybody and you don't know why. Man, I'm really feeling a little honest. And so as we get going, y'all, I need you guys to really hear what I'm gonna say because I really want to teach you. These are things that I put together based off of my own experience, and I just want to help you. And so if I say something and I'm talking about you, remember that I don't know you. It's from God. It's from the Holy Spirit speaking through me. And a lot of times We get offended because we feel like the pastor, the coach, the teacher, the parent is talking about you, but and you never change because you're too offended. Guys, as we journey from hurting to healing in this podcast, I have to say the tough stuff. And the reason why I have to say the tough stuff is because I have to make you uncomfortable for you to grow. And so you got to put ice on that trauma because that trauma has you producing actions that's not conducive for growth. Listen, I don't know what you want out of life, and not everybody is called to be an entrepreneur. But I do know if you're watching this podcast, God put you here, fam. You can do greater than what you think you can do. You can have better grades. If you've been a C student, you can be an A and B student. You can do it. You can go to college. You can make a whole lot of money. You can be emotionally wealthy. You can do it. I'm thinking of Waterboy right now. You can do it. Yeah, you too young? Okay, whatever. Shout out to Starbucks. Starbucks cup. I got a cabinet full of them. These are my wife's. Maybe I'll have a different one every week. So, all right. So last week I talked to you about icing your hurts, icing your traumas. And today I'm going to break down the I in the acronym, and that is to identify your trauma. So today I'm going to teach you how to identify your trauma. Let's go. Everybody take a deep breath. You'll see me doing that a lot. Sometimes I'll get in my bag and I'll start flowing, and I gotta take a deep breath as regulation. I gotta regulate myself. When I feel like my blood is at the top of my head, I gotta relax. We're about to have some fun tonight. Okay? So who can tell me what a trauma is? Put it in the chat. What is a trauma? A trauma is a person or a situation that has hurt you. Let me say it one more time. It is a person or a situation that has hurt you. Let me give you a few examples. Breaking up with your boyfriend, breaking up with your girlfriend, no father or mother in the household, a physically abusive house, a verbally abusive house. What does that mean? Where they hit you, where they tell you that you're stupid, where they tell you that you can't be anything, or that you're not pretty, or that you're not handsome, or that your hair nappy, or something like that. That is verbally abusive. Or it could be a sexually abusive house. Now, listen, I want to throw this caveat in here. This podcast is not the end all be all. If you are dealing with the trauma, you need to go get help. You need to talk to a therapist, a counselor, a parent, a teacher, a principal, whoever, a mentor, whoever, a coach, whoever it is that you trust. This podcast is just to help you on your journey. The crazy thing about a trauma is that a trauma affects 2 out of 3 teenagers. Let me say that again. It affects 2 out of 3 teenagers. So if you have 3 people in your house, you could be the only child with 2 parents. 2 of y'all done dealt with a trauma. Remember, your parents may be grown, but they were teenagers before. Your parents have dealt with trauma too. That's why they treat you the way that you do. You got to understand that your parents hurt too. Your parents ain't perfect. They, 9 times out of 10, have went through the same trauma that you've went through. If you've been sexually abused, your parents probably were sexually abused too. If you've been physically abused, your parents probably were abused in some capacity. That's called generational trauma. Generational trauma is a trauma that's passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. But let me tell you something prophetic. Prophetic means a word that has a future implication on it. All right. You are going to break that generational curse. Put it in the chat. Write it down on your notepads that I know you have in front of your face. Go ahead and say, I will break the curse. I will break the curse. I'm telling you, you are going to break the curse. It's not going to be easy, but you're going to break it. Your parents didn't, and they passed it on to you. And generational trauma spread because we bury them deep into our brains. because we don't want to talk about it. And eventually, when we don't talk about it, we forget about it. I was just like that. You see, you got three parts of the brain. You have the conscious mind. The conscious mind is what you're thinking. I'm going to ask you a question. Watch this, watch this. What are these initials? Don't say it out loud, though. Don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud. What are these initials? That's your conscious mind. If you know your alphabet, I know y'all be sleeping in class, but if you know your alphabet, this is a C, this is a W, this is a U. And you said that in your mind. That's your conscious. Your conscious is the part of your brain that thinks. Then you have the second level, which is the subconscious. Sub means beneath. So you have the layer of the brain that's beneath the conscious called the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind are the thoughts that you don't think, but you can access them. You see, I teach teenagers. I'm gonna teach you how to consciously be in your subconscious. I'm gonna teach you how to always think about the things that you're not thinking about. Here's the thing, because your subconscious mind actually drives your behavior. Let me say that again. Your subconscious minds, the things that you don't want to talk about, the things that have happened to you that you still remember, but don't nobody know nothing about, that drives your behavior. Now you got an attitude with somebody because your mama whooping you, beating your tail at home. Now you're not achieving all A's and B's in school because your uncle called you stupid. You see, them talking about you is in your subconscious, and now you go to all of these different like environments, and you underperform because of what you've buried in your subconscious. I'm gonna talk about how to communicate those next podcasts. All right, next pod class, I'm going to teach you how to communicate your traumas. I'm gonna teach you, but for today, I gotta get you to identify it, and to identify your trauma, you gotta consciously be in your subconscious. Because I don't want you to be like me, 30. I just turned 30 last week. And I'm dealing with something that happened to me in the first decade of my life. I'm now entering the third decade. And I'm dealing with something that happened to me in the first decade of my life. You see, when I was about the age of 6, the numbers are a little hazy to me. I was sexually abused by a family member. I am a survivor of sexual abuse. And that's something that I'm navigating right now. And it's tough. The crazy thing about it is, it was more than once, it was continuously, but I made myself forget about it. I was, number one, trying to protect my abuser. And then number two, I didn't want my family to think it was my fault. I thought people were going to blame me. I didn't think that I was going to be heard. So I kept that a secret for 2 decades. When I was a 28-year-old, I eventually sat my wife down and told her what God had revealed to me. I had to go to family events and see my abuser. My abuser has held my son, and it makes me angry right now. I'll talk about that later because I was protecting him. But the thing about it is, I buried my trauma in the third part of my brain, which is called the unconscious mind. Unconscious is the things that you don't like. It ain't there no more. It's just not there. It's not there anymore. You have repressed it, repressed. That means you continuously press it down over and over and over and over again, so deep to where it's kind of like the ocean. Like 90% of the ocean hasn't even been discovered yet. Your brain is the same way. You push it down so far that it can't be discovered anymore. And that's why generational trauma gets pushed down, because it goes unaddressed. Well, you're going to break the curse. And let me help you break the curse, because I don't want you to be like me. I don't want you, listen to this, I don't want you to be a functioning trauma victim. A functioning trauma victim is where you are hiding in plain sight. You see, I had all A's and B's. I played sports. I had a good job. I had a nice car that had 20-inch rims and LED lights going underneath it. I had a talent. I was on varsity baseball, varsity cross country. I was in varsity choir for 3 years. I was in elite choir, and I was like in an elite choir inside the varsity choir. I was in college choir, and I was a preacher. But the whole time I was doing all of this, I was functioning. I was a functioning trauma victim. I was functioning in my trauma. I didn't feel like I didn't belong. And the reason why I didn't feel like I was belong is because somebody made me feel that way when I was 6 years old. But I didn't know that when I was a teenager. I didn't know the implications of a trauma. Heck, I didn't even know what a trauma was. And I don't want you to be like me. I want to help you. I want to be a voice for you because your life is too precious for you to live your whole life dealing with a trauma. Let me tell you something. If you live your life dealing with a trauma, it can mess up your marriage. It can mess you up as a parent. It can mess you up as a person. Yeah, you may get rich, but you still are empty on the inside because of your trauma. We got to identify that thing. Somebody put identify. Are y'all okay? Are y'all good? Let's all take a deep breath. If you got a water or if you got something, take a deep breath. Feet firm on the ground. It's tough. People don't like talking about this. And don't confuse my energy for comfortability because I am sweating. Because it's something that I'm navigating and I want to help you through yours. Today, I'm going to give you 3 steps to identifying your trauma. I'm going to give you 3 steps to identifying your trauma. Y'all ready? Before I tell you guys these 3 steps, the Spirit just told me to let you know that this not going to be easy. Some of y'all just watching this to say that you're watching it. Some of you watching it just because I sent you the link. I don't care how old you are, teenagers, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. You're watching this because God put you here. And God wants you to know that this is not easy. Let me tell you something. Do you know how hard it is to talk about what happened to me? Do you know how hard that is? That's why people don't do it. That's why it's banned on social media. That's why a lot of men are insecure because they don't know how to talk about it. And they don't know how to talk about it because they hadn't identified it. I refuse to pass this down to my son. My son will be educated on this. I can save you a whole decade of mental well-being if you apply the strategies that I'm giving you. Y'all, and it is hard. It is hard as you know what. I'm watching my mouth. It's hard. But if you don't want to be 40 and getting a divorce, if you don't want to be 30 and an alcoholic, you better start right now. And here's how you do it. Number 1, you have to increase your emotional intelligence. By definition, emotional intelligence is the ability to place words on the emotions that you are feeling. I hope you're taking notes. The ability to place words on the emotions that you are feeling. Hey, how you doing? I'm good. You're lying. You are not good. You're lying, but good is all you know because you're not emotionally intelligent. You need to be able to say that this happened to me and it made me feel like this. For an example, my parents yelled at me and it made me feel insignificant because they yelled at me for no reason. Here's another one. I got a whooping the other day and I didn't even do nothing wrong. Or I made a mistake, but my daddy obviously had a bad day at work and he came in and saw my mistake and started whooping me. And it made me feel like he didn't love me because because how can he hit me and he say he loved me? I don't whoop my kids. This is a debatable topic, but not for me. I don't whoop my kids. Why would I whoop my kids? Am I not patient enough to have a conversation with them? I don't whoop my kids because I don't want to physically harm them in the present, risking harming their emotions in the. Have you ever thought when you're whooping your child, have you ever thought how they feel getting whooped? It don't matter how they feel. Did it matter when you were a teenager? Yeah, it mattered. And that's not cool. You guys got to be able to identify. I believe that you have common emotions. You have happy, mad, sad, or chill, right? Those are common emotions. How you feel? Oh, I'm happy. How you doing? Oh, I'm chill. Those those are common emotions. If that's all you say, you're not very emotionally intelligent. I believe that every emotion has a cousin. You know, a cousin is somebody that's kin to somebody, right? Right. So you have a cousin. That's your auntie's child. That's your mama's sister child. You're your cousin. Happiness has a cousin, and it's called joy, or being energized, or being loved, or feeling fulfilled. Those are cousins to happiness. How do you feel? Man, I really feel fulfilled that you decided to host my podcast for me again. Hey, I really feel impacted by the time you're taking to record this podcast. That's a cousin to happy. You have to increase your vocabulary. You have to Google synonyms for happy. And go like 3 weeks without saying happy. How do you feel? Oh, I feel joyous. Sadness has cousins, depressed, disappointed, alone. But if you're not emotionally intelligent enough, you'll be addressing sadness when you're really alone. You'll be addressing sadness when you are really depressed. So now you never get the answer to your depression because all you know is sadness. You have to be emotionally intelligent. God created us with emotions, including young men. He did. And so you have to become more emotionally intelligent so you can say, as a victim of a trauma, that it made you feel this way. What is that emotion that it made you feel? Coach, it made me feel bad. Why did it make you feel bad? So, number one, you have to increase your emotional intelligence. Number two, you have to understand the principle of duality. The principle of the duality, excuse me, the principle of duality states that you can have two emotions at the same time. This has something to do with being comfortable and uncomfortable. Comfortable emotions and uncomfortable emotions. A lot of times we try to live in the comfortable emotions because we really don't want to address the uncomfortable ones. And so we don't become intelligent on anger because we bury it in our unconscious mind. Because it's not good to be angry. No, it is. There are some things that ticks me off, and that's okay. The Bible says be angry and don't sin. You can be angry, just don't cuss them out. You can be angry, just don't start a fight in the hallway. Come on, man. Y'all funny. Coach, why are you talking about me? I don't know you. You're funny. You're funny because you think I'm playing right now. You're funny because you think I'm being funny. I'm not being funny. I am being real. You're really angry because your daddy not there. So you take the anger of the trauma of your dad not being there and you take it to school and now you don't like boys or now you are verbally abusive to all of your male teachers and your coaches because your daddy ain't there. And since your daddy ain't there, your mama always talk about your daddy like he a piece of trash. And so now subconsciously you have a negative perception of men. Welcome to Coach's Pod Class. But you never learn how to deal with that anger towards that trauma because you haven't identified the trauma. And so you don't know how to deal with the anger that's attached to the trauma, and you bury it in your unconscious mind, and now you in ISS. Now you in school suspension. Now you getting suspended. Now you got all C's. Now you can't stand your mama. Now you always talking back because you don't know how to deal with that uncomfortable anger that's sitting in your chest because ain't nobody taught you how to do it. I'm in my bag. I'm in my bag right now. I'm in my bag. I'm not angry. I'm convicted. I'm in your living room right now. I'm pulling up your driveway. It's okay to be angry. Just as well as it's okay to be sad, be happy. You can have two emotions at the same time. Stop burying emotions that don't feel good. You can be happy and your mama can disappoint you. I remember when I hit my first home run over the fence in baseball. None of my parents were there because they were in Bible class. I couldn't say that with a straight face. So I was happy I hit a home run. But I was sad at the same time because I turned around and wasn't nobody in the stands to see it because of Bible class. Lord bless all our saints. So number one, you gotta identify. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm goofy. Number one, you gotta increase your emotional intelligence. Number two, you have to understand the principle of duality, which means you can have two emotions at the same time. Number three, before I get out of here, I'm way past my time right now. Number three, you got to understand that identification leads to revelation. Again, identification leads to revelation. I remember about 2 years ago, we had just got a brand new, not a brand new, it was used, the Nissan Altima. We stayed in Bedford, Texas. That was my wife's car because I still had my truck then. And so she would drive this Nissan Altima in Bedford, Texas. And one day she came home, parked the car, came in the house. The next morning, we was about to go get in the car with Deuce. And man, it was a funky smell in the garage. And we had no idea what it was. Man, I looked around the garage like it was a raccoon. Is it a possum? Like, is it a rat? Is it a, what is it? What done got into this garage that smells dead? That's foul. It was funky. What is it? Man, we drove. I can't remember where we went. I got out the car and I still smelled the same thing. It was like that dead smell was following me around. I'm like, what is this? So I drove home, parked the car in the garage, waited a little bit, went back out there, and the smell was in the garage. I was like, wait, this smell gotta be in the car. I get underneath the car. I'm looking. I'm like, what is it? I pop up the hood, turn my flash on my on my iPhone. Shout out to my iPhone users. I turn my flash and then I start looking around the motor. I start looking around the engine. And then I was like, what is that? Y'all, somehow my wife had a dead pigeon underneath her motor. And it had been dead, obviously due to the heat. And dead bodies and heat don't go well. And it started stinking very bad. It was very foul. I don't know how that pigeon got underneath a Nissan Altima. The 2019 Nissan Altima. I don't know how that happened. But it happened. But I identified it because I was searching. And then it was revealed to me that it was a pigeon. Trauma is the same way. If you don't identify what is producing foul actions, then the path to healing will never be revealed. I'm going to say it again. If you don't identify what is producing foul actions, why are you always mad? Why are you always sleepy? Why are you always nervous? Why do you feel like everybody's talking about you? Why do you feel like you don't belong? Why this? Why that? If you don't identify the why, and if you don't identify what is producing the foul action, then the path to healing will never be revealed. And if the path to healing is never revealed, then you will live your life just being this generation's version of your parents. That's why you have to identify your y'all, that's my time. Let me recap. What are the 3 steps to identifying your trauma? Number 1, increase your emotional intelligence. Number 2, what was number 2? Understand the principle of duality. Number 3, you have to understand that identification leads to revelation. I'm going to give you guys some homework before I get out of here. I want you to make a T-chart. I want you to make a T-chart. On the left side of the T-chart, you're going to write at the top, who/what has hurt you. And then on the right side, you're going to write, how did it make me feel? So on the left side of the T-chart, who or what has hurt me. Then on the right side, you're going to write, how did it make me feel? Next week, we're going to talk about how to communicate this. We're going to talk about who do you know around you that you can communicate this to? Y'all, it's nerve-wracking. You can do it. Coach Williams is here for you. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Coaches Pod Class. Y'all just know that I love you. This journey, we're going to take it together. You have support. People do love you. If you need further help, I need you to go get some help. And just remember that you can do this. Y'all stay tuned. We posting weekly. I'll see y'all next Tuesday. Bye, y'all. Love you.